Welcome to Rich Conversations. This is an observations report of our 30-day no caffeine experiment. This is the first day that I'm allowing myself to have caffeine after the previous 30 days where I did not consume caffeine. And this is my report. This is what I've learned or experienced, and I thought I'd share it. The reason why I chose to do this is because I'm someone who believes that human beings only need 4 things to survive, and that's water, food, shelter, and human connection. But when I took inventory of my own life, I realized for me there was this kind of 5th thing I needed to survive, and that was caffeine in the form of coffee, espresso for me, preferably. And so after evaluating that, I was thinking about it, and if I truly need this thing to survive, maybe it's time we tinker around a little bit. And I would think about how do we want to go about this? Because I've experimented and done other things in life to lead towards a life of self-improvement and growth. But caffeine is a variable that I have not touched in like 12 years. And instead of just weaning off of it, like, oh, let's not have a cup of coffee in the afternoon, or, slowly, gradually doing it, I was more energized by the observational results that I would see from just completely cutting it out for 30 days and seeing what happens. That's what really excited me, and that's why I chose this route. I got into coffee, actually, when I was 22. I voluntarily lived homeless in Chicago, and part of this stretch, I was in a homeless shelter program, and at breakfast, I'd just be sitting around with other guys, and we'd be drinking coffee, and it was so enjoyable just to listen to people's stories and just talk about life. It was great. And then on top of that, caffeine and coffee is great for reflecting, stimulating of the mind, and on top of that, I'm someone who pursues a lot of ideas through writing and reflection and entrepreneurship. And coffee is fantastic for that. And so, 12 years of my life, caffeine has been a big part of it. And I've loved it, but I've noticed throughout my days, my energy is just kind of like this, Yes! Whoa! Okay. Whoa! And I want to change that a little bit. Or just see what life is like kind of without life being like that and our days feeling like that. Now, what caffeine really does is our body has these, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. These things, it's called like androgen, and that's what makes you sleepy. So once those hit your brain kind of like shuts things down. But what caffeine does is block that from getting to your brain chemistry, so then your brain won't feel tired. So caffeine doesn't give you energy. It basically just blocks you from being tired, so you feel energetic. And I learned this through an extensive YouTube history of watching Caffeine No 30 Days and the history of caffeine and all this stuff. The world we live in. Now, I'm in nature right now, so I guess that's probably not a good example. But in the cities and our economies and our world, our globalization, kind of feels like it's a byproduct of caffeine and coffee especially. And coffee really came prominent in the 16th, 17th century, where, a lot of thinkers, a lot of people, they got this substance, this stimulating drink that you could get together. It's very social, it's stimulating of the mind and body, and you can share ideas, and it didn't make you sloppy the way alcohol would, right? So it's much less harmful to society. And in fact, a lot of those interactions contributed to the Enlightenment, which then leads us more into this scientific progression and to where we are today, which is pretty interesting. And even, I think, consuming caffeine and coffee, it's so normalized. You know, like I've lived on a farm half my life and cities half my life. And so in cities especially, there's a coffee shop on every corner, you know, but caffeine is a drug, but it's not perceived that way. And the addiction to it is kind of encouraged with its social elements. But why don't I go over some results and kind of my process with it. Now, again, I wanted to just do it 30 days, no caffeine, cold turkey, and just observe the results. I'm not going to make any conclusions about it. I'm not going to be definitive and be like, I'm never consuming caffeine again in my life. So my process was, I'm doing it for 30 days, and I'm designing kind of a rehab program for myself. So I chose to just be in nature most of the time. Give myself a runway, kind of clear my schedule, and not be doing busy work, not be doing the things I would be normally doing when drinking caffeine. On a computer, like whizzing away at the day. I'm just gonna relax, I'm gonna take a step back and see what happens. And the first morning without caffeine, I was actually volunteering after a 4th of July festival. So it was July 5th. Probably not something I would choose to do again, to start 30 days, no caffeine. After the last 12 years, you couldn't go a day without caffeine. So that morning, I was a little bit more irritable, a lot more irritable. But then in the afternoon, I started to get headaches or just like a tightness in my head. And I prepared for the worst. I really did. Because I had done it cold turkey for 10 days a few years back. Like 6 years prior to this. And the 10 days were pretty bad. And headaches were pretty bad. I felt tired all the time, like of the first 3 days. This was pretty tolerable. I think because I set the expectation right here and prepared for that. But really, in reality, the pain level and fatigue was about here. So actually it went pretty smooth. The most frustrating aspect of this entire thing was just not having the just motivation to do the aspirational things that I'm working towards. It was really hard to just be on a computer and get really excited, energized to do all this stuff. I'd look at a computer and so I wasn't on a computer much. Actually, something I did is take on a project of digitalizing photos, physical photos, and just kind of doing that. So more low cognitive tasks. And I've been on the farm. I'm working on building a farm chair for campfires that we have. And so that's another project that I took on. So just doing, kind of substituting tasks to something that's a little bit more on the lower cognitive scale. That was probably the worst thing. Just kind of like fatigue, just not feeling really inspired, motivated to work on some things. I felt depressed, especially within the first 2 weeks, I would say. And someone would ask me like, well, what would make you feel better? And I think and I go, a cup of coffee. Oh, shoot. There's definitely stuff going on with the brain chemistry. Now, I'm not a neuroscientist, and I don't care to be, but I just observe kind of the feelings that I've had. And yeah, towards the first part of it, the depressed aspects were there, fatigue. Something overall I'm kind of disappointed about was I thought I would feel a lot clearer. There still seems to be some cloudiness and sleepiness, but it makes sense at the same time because if I've done this drug, caffeine, for the last 12 years every single day, and then I expect not doing it for 30 days to suddenly be perfect, I'd be fooling myself. So there is that aspect of it. A big thing for me was how little attention I paid to time. It felt like prior to this, my day and my schedule would be designed around caffeine consumption and drinking coffee. So if I have it at this time in the morning, by this time in the afternoon, I'm going to need it again. And then maybe later in the evening, I might take a little bit if it's real bad. And my whole schedule was dictated by coffee and caffeine and anticipating the roller coaster ride. These 30 days, I've kind of lost track of time because I don't have to take this drug at a certain time and, hit my schedules. So that's been a kind of like a subtle, interesting thing. Overall, I still love coffee and caffeine, and I'm still going to use it moving forward. I'm just going to be more intentional, starting with just like 5 drinks per week. So I'm going to limit it and use it more intentionally and specifically, more precise for the activities that I'm doing. So what's been nice is that I don't feel I need it to wake up anymore. So that's pretty major. That's pretty big. So now when I consume it, it's going to be more for work purposes, writing purposes, reflection purposes, really like finding a window of, okay, I want to really get this done. So I'm going to take this substance, drink this coffee, and use it for just that time only. I don't need to be drinking it the entire day, which is what I had been doing kind of previous to that. Just moderation. This is a really important thing about life. You have to think about life and your experiences and who you are and decide what your purpose is. What are you here for? What do we want to do in life, right? And then make your decisions based around that. A lot of times I think we think about these little things on the ground and make our decisions kind of upward, right? Whether it be, oh, I'm not going to drink caffeine again, it's bad, or whatever. Or even alcohol or other things, or diet and exercise. You have to figure out what you want out of life. You don't get a prize for abstaining from alcohol in your life, being sober, right? You don't get a prize for being sober from caffeine. It doesn't really matter in a way, but you just have to think, what do I want out of life, and what route am I going to take to get there? And so with me, I'm going to do it more moderately, because I do enjoy the feeling, I enjoy its effects, and I enjoy the social aspects of it. I'm just going to, just be a little bit more precise. And so leading up to this, in preparation, I bought some Caffè Bustelo. This is my favorite coffee, favorite espresso. And trust me, I've tried many, many coffees, many different espressos. And Caffè Bustelo is my favorite. It's affordable. It's great tasting. I was experimenting with different espressos, and when I bought this and tried it, the moment I sipped it, it brought me right back to Miami. I feel like taste really has that connection to memories. Taste, I think, is one of the most underrated senses we have, and it can really bring you back into moments. And so now every time when I drink Bustelo, I'm reminded of Miami, and we love Miami. So this is how I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to have some of this, and I'm energized to drink it again and just really take it all in. I'm really energized. I hope what I'm visualizing matches reality when we do have it again. But it's been a good experiment. So think about ways you can experiment in your own life, whether it's caffeine or other things that maybe has a little stronger hold on you than you care to admit, or you haven't been fully aware of, fully conscious of, I would say. And just, see how you can overall make your life better by just, changing up some things. So that's my report. Go forth, be well.